Forex and Lorgar fighting each other for eternity. Lorgar turns into a fireball surrounded by flaming runes.
Is that actually what he turns into?
Yeah.
I need to look these things up. What about we don't do we see Puerto Rabo's demon form ever?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. Now onto our penultimate match in this round on the West. We've got this is gonna be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Lionel Johnson versus the wind man himself, Jagtai Khan. He rides like the wind, he slices like the wind.
Indeed he does.
By the way, this is a terrible, there are no good portraits of Lionel Johnson out there. This one looks like some kind of smarmy Draco Malfoy character.
Yeah, so the one I always picture is the one where he was drawn after Clint Eastwood, so anything is fucking better representation than that.
Yeah. I almost want to give this to the Khan just so I don't have to look at lions. The other thing I hate about him, his name is so fucking dumb. Because it's Lionel Johnson. We talked about this before. He's a poet. They were like, oh, we're being cute back when they didn't care about stuff.
Right.
And now it's, well, his name is Lion, like a lion, but in whatever, Caliban language, L. Johnson means of the forest. So Johnson is forest.
Yeah. Small point of contention. I don't think there's an H in Johnson.
Like that? That doesn't look right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get rid of it for now. Lionel Johnson. But so you mentioned before, Khan, well known as a great swordsman, deftly just undercuts Mortarion. But Lionel Johnson, he's got some pretty, I don't know, like he's got some moments where he's like, oh, he's the strongest and best, and then others where he feels severely underpowered.
I was gonna say, does Khan have a bike in this fight?
In the 1,000, I think at least a few of them, he's got some kind of bike.
Yeah, but even then, I think Khan takes it just for his martial ability is pretty top notch.
So here's I actually think I'm going to go with Khan too, but as I started liking the Dark Angels, and in some of the fluff, it's like, well, Lion was the first and he's the strongest. He's all around the best. He's a great tactician. Mm-hmm. And there are scenes and situations where he's amazing. So like on his ship, he is hunting curs. And even though it's in the shadows and it's like curs is home territory, basically, mm-hmm. Lion's like pretty much keeping up with him and is mostly the aggressor. Then in like 3 scenes later, he can't take down curs with Gilliman helping him. When he's first introduced, one of the first Dark Angels books in the Horus Heresy, he needs help to take down like a big monster in Caliban. And yet in other places, he took down this amazingly powerful Calibanite lion that would have been impossible for anyone else to take down. Yeah. It's just he's so inconsistently portrayed. I think and also his model is not that good. Like the rules were disappointing. So on the flip side, he did beat Lehman Russ, although some could argue it was kind of a draw. But even still, Lehman Russ is probably the best fighter on here.
Yeah,
and he beat him.
So he's not the best fighter.
But he's not okay. So you think you give it to the Khan?
I think so. I'm only taking Lorgar's word for it.
Yeah, let's give it to the Khan. I agree. If for nothing else, then for like a diversity perspective, as one of the only 2, I guess, non-Caucasian people in this extremely non-diverse world. I guess
Our
Magnus
bracket is looking
red.
pretty white.
Yeah, it is. Magnus is looking pretty red. But first of all, the Khan representing. Thank you, Khan, for injecting some diversity. But joking aside, I feel like he's got this.
Yeah. I'm comfortable with that.
I am comfortable with that. All right. Next up, on the East, Agnes versus Vulcan.
I thought this was an interesting matchup.
Tell me more about that.
If not because Vulcan is a perpetual and he can't really be killed.
True.
But yeah, no, Magnus is definitely the victor here.
Yeah, no question. I love Vulcan. I think he's an amazing character. I think like a lot of people will say, "Oh, he's a perpetual, so he should be number one." If you always lose, it doesn't matter if you're immortal.
It's true.
So I hate to say it, he doesn't beat anyone. He goes insane at one point. You know,
Hell of a
it's
guy.
hell of a guy. I think next to say, actually, you know what? Sorry, Sanguinius. Vulcan's the guy I'd want to be friends with. Now, here's the argument, though. One interesting point: Magnus is often cited as the largest Primarch, but then Vulcan is also cited as the largest Primarch.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're both huge, even for Primarchs. And I think Vulcan is by far the strongest of the Primarchs.
Yeah.
So were they to meet on martial prowess alone, I don't think Magnus has much.
Yeah, but you can't discount his psychic ability.
No, he's just gonna. Well, somebody else on one of the threads was arguing, well, they all are Primarchs, so they're resistant to psychic stuff.
But he's the strongest.
Fair. And actually, that brings me back to Lion. There was another like very, like almost Kaldor Drager moment, like an extremely powerful Eldar Fireseer tries to like mind wipe Lion, and he just like crushes him, even though he's not psychic. He like traps him in his own mind and then kills him. And it's like, what? So just because of his inconsistency, I'm disqualifying Lion because he can't get his shit together. But I think Magnus does move on past the first round here.
Congrats, Magnus.
Maybe we'll get like a Magnus Lehman situation.
Yeah.
So that means after. Mm-hmm. Oh no, we're not done yet because we still have to. We got. Yeah. So let's go back to the West for Leman Russ versus Lorgar.
Yeah. I think Russ takes this one.
Yeah, I can't see many situations where Lorgar wins.
Yeah, Russ, a part of his job is to hunt other Primarchs because he's so good at it.
He's the executioner.
Yeah.
I do hate him. I think he's a huge jerk. Of all the like loyalists, I think he's the least. He just causes so many issues.
Yeah.
He does go in the warp, but maybe he achieved his, what was it, Banku? Bankai. So maybe he's like, I'm sure it's wolf related.
Yeah, he turns into a pack of wolves.
Yeah. So Raven of the Raven Guard and Wolf of the Wolfies. But yeah, I think Lehman wins that one pretty much hands down. And then we got here's one that's a little more controversial. Mm-hmm. Rogueldorn versus Mortarion. I really don't know.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Dorn.
Me too. Like, I think he's one tier above Gilliman, but his strength is more as a commander and a siege breaker / fortification builder.
Yeah.
But Mortarion doesn't really have any strength. He just kind of smells.
Yeah, he can poison you.
I also think it's funny, like all of these like Primarchs have like really cool weapons. And what's with Dorn's is just a big chainsword. Like, dude, that's a weak weapon, man. Get with the 9th edition situation.
It's a big chainsword.
Yeah, I could see this one being a toss-up. Fine, Dorn wins. We'll give it to Dorn.
What the hell?
So in both cases, the winner of our wild card round ended up losing.
Yeah.
So that's fun. Okay.
We could have spared the time.
So now in the we're in the semifinals, I think, or the Elite 8.
The quarterfinals?
Yeah, quarterfinals. So our first matchup, we've got here, let me make these brackets a little bit better. We've got Angry Boy Angron versus Angry Ron versus Leman Russ in the East.
Yeah.
And then the other matchup in the East in the Elite 8 is Peter Turbo versus the Khan. I think that's going to be an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's watching me play with Microsoft PowerPoint here, who's tuning in on YouTube. In the God damn it. There we go. In the East, we've got Rogel versus Sanguinius. Do we even need to talk about that one?
No.
Okay, Sanguinius wins that one.
Congratulations, Sanguinius.
Congratulations. We're not even going to debate that, guys. Rogel's fine. He's not the best warrior, and he's up against arguably the strongest fighter, not counting like being demon possessed. So we're just going to make an executive decision.
Mhm.
And then we've got Big Daddy Horace versus Magnus. That one actually could be interesting. So we had a lightning decision there. So the first East, Rogueldorn versus Sanguinius. Sanguinius wins hands down. Hands down, in my opinion.
Sorry, Dorn fans.
And also, I'm also irritated because I couldn't find a image of Dorn with a mustache.
Yeah.
Which is a huge detractor for me.
That's mind canon at this point.
But Sanguinius, great tactician, great with people, maybe not as good a fortification builder, but he's an all-around great fighter and could rival Horus, so Dorned her out. Leman Russ versus Angron. This actually happened.
They fought. But depending on who you ask, the outcome was different.
I still hold to the fact that I think Leman Russ was kind of trying to prove a point as opposed to trying to outright kill Angron. Now the flip side of that is, what about like Demon Angron? But Puerto Rabo took him out.
But the point he was trying to make is that you have to rely on your, your son's chapter or legion or what have you, and this is just a straight one-on-one fight. He doesn't have the wolf pack at his back.
It's true, and Puerto Rabo, I don't remember the specifics, but I know he killed Angron by guile. Like he knew how to like take advantage of his demonic form, and I don't think Leman Russ is going to do. He's just going to go for a fight. So I think Demon Primarch versus Leman Russ, Demon Primarch Angron versus normal Leman Russ. That's an Angron win. I think one-on-one, it's like 50-50 if they're both not powered up. So I actually agree with you. I think I give it to Angron. You agree?
I think so.
All right. So that means we're going to have Sanguinius versus Angron are going to be in the semifinals. All right. Let's go back to the East for Horus versus Magnus.
This one's tough.
This is tough. I remember there was a scene where Malcador the Sigillite, Horus was trying to talk about the banished Primarchs, and Malcador forces Horus to shut up. Was Magnus as powerful or more powerful than Malcador? I think yes.
From what I understand, Magnus is the most powerful psyker aside from the Emperor.
So right, because he was going to take over the Golden Throne, and we know that if Malcador did do that and lasted a few hours. Yeah,
it was pretty much Magnus's job to sit on the Golden Throne.
So I think if Horus is not powered up, Magnus wins.
Yeah.
Unless, well, on the flip side, we are doing 1,000 runs. I'm sure there are some situations like if Horus has a Sisters of Silence. That's how Leman Russ beat him, by the way. He had tons of Custodians and Sisters of Silence.
Yeah.
If Horus has some blanks, or what are they called? Like the Calexis guy.
Null Maidens.
Yeah, Null or Pariah Gene. Maybe Horus can come out on top.
So if it's not one-on-one?
Yeah, but if it's one-on-one and psychic powers are allowed, I think Magnus wins.
Yeah.
And I think we agree we can't really allow for supercharged Horus because he would just win all of them. Right. I actually think Magnus wins this one.
Yeah, that feels weird saying, but yeah.
Again, like, this is subjective, but we're saying it's non-demonically powered Horus.
Right. Because he had the blessings of all 4 Chaos Gods.
Whereas Magnus is only maybe the unknowing pawn of the Great Changer. I give it to Magnus. I do.
Yeah. Okay.
And if nothing else, then just to make the final matchups more interesting
and diverse.
Because otherwise,
we all know Puerto Rabo is taking the next one.
Okay, so all right. Why do you think Puerto Rabo beats the Khan? I actually think that too, but I'm surprised. I thought you were going to argue for the Khan a little bit.
No, I think it goes back to what we were saying. Puerto Rabo, he doesn't get enough credit. Maybe on the tabletop he sucks balls, but I think in lore, he's proven himself.
I don't think, does he suck on the tabletop? I think he's okay.
I think that was a thing.
I don't remember.
And I don't play 30K, but the guys at Mini Wargaming played for a while. And fuck, what was this guy? The big dude. What was his name? I don't remember. But he played.
Oh, he
Iron
played
Warriors.
30K. Yeah.
Yeah. And he would always lament like how cool Peter Turbo is, but he just is horrible, and he always dies.
I mean, he does have the ability to bring like a tank
Yeah.
as like a backup, which is the Tormentor. But yeah, I mean, I think the Khan, you know, he's got speed, he's got swiftness. I feel like in a one-on-one match, Puerto Rabo is going to find a way to nullify that.
Mhm.
I think if the Khan has something fast, I don't know. Like, I just can't see it happening because Puerto Rabo, like Fulgrim, I think would beat the Khan, and Puerto Rabo killed Fulgrim.
Yeah.
They killed, you know, he beat Fulgrim.
Defeated.
And Demon Primarch Angron. So yeah. All right. I think it's close. I think in our 1,000 simulations, I think sometimes the Khan edges them out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Puerto Rabo is not gonna take that.
Yeah.
Semifinals. We've got Sanguinius and Angron versus Puerto Rabo and Magnus. Let's start with Sanguinius and Angron.
My money is on Sanguinius.
Mine too. I mean, he specifically beats Bloodthirsters, so he knows how to deal with coronate things.
Yeah.
And I think he's just going to be able to use Angron's anger against him and just outmaneuver him.
Yeah. He's S tier.
Yeah, I think Sanguinius is S tier. I think Angron unpowered up is B tier, powered up is maybe A tier. But Sanguinius is S tier. I agree. All right, well that was easy. And then we got Puerto Rabo versus Magnus. This is a tough one.
Yeah.
I think Puerto Rabo, you know, if he beat Demon Primarch Angron by using his own strength against him, I think he's gonna do the same thing with Magnus.
Can he outsmart Magnus?
I mean, Lehman Russ kind of did. I guess not. I guess he was kind of in like a fugue state, like existential crisis when that happened. He was going to allow himself to be killed.
He uses psychers. I'll take a bunch of people that block his psychic ability.
Right. But like if it was one-on-one, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Puerto Rabo does have like Iron Will. I think there's one scene somewhere where like a psyker tries to grab him and he can't do it, but I'm sure Magnus is stronger than all that. I don't know. What do you think? I want to say Puerto Rabo, but I think Magnus would probably win more often.
I think so. I think you're right.
It's pretty close though.
Yeah. Magnus is S tier.
I think Puerto Rabo is like low end of S tier or maybe high A tier. Mm-hmm. All right, so we think we got Magnus. Sorry, everyone else. Magnus just has really, you know, he can cast spells that you guys can't. So our last one, we've got Sanguinius versus Magnus, the battle of the S tiers. Before we get there, who else is S tier, do you think? I mean, Horus, obviously.
Yeah.
I think unpowered Horus is at the low, like I think he's below Sanguinius and Magnus, but powered Horus is at the top.
I think the Demon Primarchs, like if you give them that ability, they can beat any Primarch straight.
Except for Demon Lorgar.
Except for Demon Lorgar. Well, he's been fighting Awakened Corax at a standstill for.
Oh, is that in the books?
Yeah.
I must have missed that.
So it's the flock of ravens versus the flaming fireball, and they sort of have been fighting for a while in the warp.
Okay. So that's kind of like Corax is kind of like Demon Primarch equivalent. I would say I don't know. I feel like Demon Primarch Angron is still A tier because he's so stupid. I think Fulgrim, Demon Primarch. I think Fulgrim by himself is either high B tier or low A tier.
Okay.
Let's say A tier. I think Fulgrim is A tier as a Demon Primarch. The only thing is, like, he sucks as a Demon Primarch. Like, he never does anything good because he's so preoccupied with getting his jollies off, you know?
So it is the short story Sons of the Emperor.
I need to read that. That's the one where Lorgar and Korax are fighting in the warp.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool. I wish TTS was still around because that would be fascinating to see. I think Lion is B tier. I think Khan is like high B tier,
Yeah,
maybe low A. Low A. I agree with that. Gilliman, and this is just in fighting ability, not in like logistical. I think like Gilliman low key is probably the best Primarch because look, he's running the Imperium right now. Like nobody else could do that.
Yeah.
But on fighting ability alone,
it's more of a bureaucrat.
Yeah. So I think Gilliman's like C tier. I think Dorn is high C tier. Maybe high C tier, maybe normal. Vulcan is like D tier. Alfarius, Omegon, or low, like E or F. Kurz, it depends on where you're reading, but he's either like a really solid B or kind of a D.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch of author perspective that changes power levels. So it's hard to get a real grapple on it, but you know the good ones are fairly consistent, I think.
What tier do you think Mortarion is?
I feel like he should be higher than he actually is.
Yeah, he's so incompetent. I think the fact that Kaldor Drager beat him puts him one tick above Alfarius, but that's it.
I don't consider Kaldor Drago to be a real thing.
It's I think it's canon though.
It's not canon, I accept.
All right, so if we don't consider Kaldor Drago canon, maybe he's low C tier.
Yeah.
If we do, then he's like F tier. He's, you know how it used to be when you kill the avatar, that's how you know your character's badass. I think it's just like Mortarion is just a punching bag.
Yeah, but Demon Primarch Mortarion's really good.
He
I
is,
think,
although
at least on the tabletop.
Yeah, on the tabletop he's awesome. But you know who's even better on the tabletop? Magnus.
Rogueldorn.
Well, he's pretty awesome too. But I mean, like, you have to, if A Thousand Suns 8th edition, I think you had to have Magnus pretty much, right?
Yeah.
So he's up against Sanguinius. What do you think?
Auto include. I don't know. Were there any times they fought? Probably not.
I don't know. I also, for some reason, maybe it's cheating, but I just feel like Sanguinius would be resistant to like some of the mind control stuff too. Just because he's got that whole angelic and he's got that strong part of their father. I don't know on this one. I feel like it's a draw.
Even still, I think Magnus, like, he could like crushed a Lehman Russ tank like into a cube.
He actually, yeah.
It doesn't have to be, you know, mind bullets all the time, right?
That's true. The other, I mean, like, I was talking about how Sanguinius like flew into a Warlord Titan. I'm pretty sure in A Thousand Suns, Magnus mind crushes like whatever the Warlord Titan equivalent is for Eldar. Like it's an Eldar Titan, and he just like mind crushes it like pretty easily. So I think yeah, we have to give it to Magnus here. The problem with Magnus, he's not emotionally aware, and he's impatient, and he gets depressed. Like, I know Korax is like super depressed, but like Magnus keeps getting depressed. like when the wolves blow up Prospero, he's just like, I guess this is what was Elijah, just let it happen. And then he comes in, and even with the Null Maiden starts crushing people, but ends up losing.
Yeah.
All right, I think Magnus edges out Sanguinius.
I could see that.
You think, or you think it's a draw? All right, congratulations, Big Magnus.
You are the victor.
Magnus wins. I remember 1d4 Chan doesn't exist anymore, right?
Maybe.
I don't know. I tried to find it and I couldn't, but they used to have in each of the Primarch like pages, they would talk about like, well, what happens if they fight each other on the tabletop? And it would always say, well, if Magnus doesn't use psychic powers, he still does pretty okay. Using psychic powers, though, he's going to win.
Shame that we had Korax up against Horus in the first round, because I just read that Korax took down 2 defilers by himself.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not a warlord titan, but it's pretty good.
2 of them
Simultaneously. Well, maybe he smashed one into the other one.
maybe with its power scourge and autocannon.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Honestly, I don't know terribly much about Vulcan.
I gotta read Borker. All right, I'm gonna close this here.
Sons of the Emperor.
That's the one to read. Sons of the Emperor. I'm actually gonna write it down in my little journal here. Obviously, super subjective.
Yeah.
And again, everyone's gonna have different points of view. This was just Tom and mine. Love to know what you guys think. Where did we get it wrong? Put it in the comments. Where did we get it right? Put it in the comments. Or comments on
every Primarch has its fanboy that has some bit of lore that we've overlooked.
Absolutely. And the lore is super inconsistent. It's super expansive. So let us know what we're missing. Otherwise, I love debating this shit. I have no idea why. It's just so fun. I go, oh well, he did this and he did that. I guess that's when you know you're a huge nerd, basically.
Yeah. Schoolyard shenanigans.
I think the first time I experienced this was like 3rd grade debating Power Rangers versus X-Men.
Or even which superhero who's stronger than Superman and Batman.
Isn't that funny that like we love that so much when we put like I remember Stan Lee said something, if you got 2 heroes against each other, neither of them can win or lose.
Yeah.
But man.
Except when the Hulk fought Wolverine. I remember reading the Hulk, he just grabbed Wolverine like with his 2 hands, ripped him in half, and threw his legs as far as he could. And Wolverine was like, he must have thrown them further than 6 miles away because I can't smell them anymore. So he had to like crawl on his hands to find his legs.
But then again, I'll bring this up in like Old Man Logan. I think he kills the Hulk, right? Because the Hulk is like super weird and corrupted and stuff.
Yeah.
I need to read that. I've never seen that scene. That sounds pretty fun. Fun that he gets his legs ripped off. Well, Tom, as always, this has been stimulating. I think we need to figure out. We're going to be rebranding soon, so if you're a fan, stick around for that. Otherwise, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button.
Right. Good night.
When in doubt, punch it out.
Second.
Chicago, Illinois, 60652. Help me get a bite out of crime.
You're going to fabulous Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
That's the one I'm always waiting for. All right. End transmission.
End scene.